Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 210 based on novel. So let's start. The divine dragon looked at the gate of heaven influence with a look of suspicion. Jiang Miao asked in a low voice, Cult Master, will you really be able to get rid of him? I don't know, Qin Mu said softly. Wide-eyed, Jiang Miao cried out, don't know. I haven't tested if this gate can kill gods or not. I've only killed devil experts of celestial being realm in the past. I was trying to scare him just now, since he has fallen to such a state, yet he still wants to act all high and mighty, so we need to be more ruthless than him no matter what. Qin Mu finished his explanation and apologized to the divine dragon. Senior, if I can't kill you, please don't laugh at me. He was about to execute Gate of Heaven influence when the divine dragon looked like he'd remembered something, and his expression changed drastically. Wait a minute. Qin Mu stopped, and Gate of Heaven influence instantly paused. He said very patiently, Senior, please speak. The divine dragon stared at this gate of his with a hint of fear in his gaze. He screeched, I've seen this gate before. What's your relationship with Mingju Heavenly King? He also has a gate like this. Mingju Heavenly King also has Gate of Heaven influence. Qin Mu asked with suspicion. I remember seeing a person open Gate of Heaven influence in Ghost Valley. Could he have been the Mingju Heavenly King you're talking about? You're a descendant of Mingju Heavenly King. No wonder you can also open this gate, the divine dragon said in a trembling voice. Qin Mu shook his head and said with a smile, my surname is Qin of Carefree Village. Who is this Mingju Heavenly King? Is his surname Qin as well? The divine dragon seemed to not be listening to him though, having fallen into a deep and terrifying recollection. He muttered to himself, Mingju Heavenly King controls a gate connected to Yudu. Countless strong enemies died in his hands, and Founding Emperor conferred him the title of Heavenly King, ordering him to open Yudu. Founding Emperor had great ambitions and wanted to annex Yudu as well. He wanted to control the marvel of life and death, but he angered Earth Count. Earth Count wasn't willing to submit, so Founding Emperor ordered Heavenly Works God Race to forge a divine knife. Mingju Heavenly King sliced off a huge piece of Yudu with it, and Founding Emperor ordered people to construct Fengju in that land. Qin Mu was stunned. Mingju Heavenly King sliced off a piece of Yudu and turned it into Fengju. He was so powerful. By stealing some territory of Yudu, Mingju Heavenly King had angered Earth Count. However, Mingju was clever, so he petrified himself and his primordial spirit escaped into Fengju. Back then, the gods and devils that had died under his gate were uncountable, for which he was conferred to be the Heavenly King in charge of the souls. This gate of yours, it's impossible for it to be the same as his. Qin Mu's eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked, Senior, I've seen a stone statue in Ghost Valley with a gate that connects to Yudu behind it. However, it sealed up gods and devils with a beehive seal. Could that person have been Mingju Heavenly King? The divine dragon was in a daze while muttering to himself. Your gate cannot be the same as his. You don't have the ability to hurt me. You're just a country bumpkin that's as weak as a hen dragon. Qin Mu's face flushed and he said, Senior, you're insulting all humans like this. I'm pretty sure I've seen this Mingju Heavenly King before, and according to my guess, he should only be a fake overlord body. He didn't cultivate to my standard at all. The divine dragon came back to his senses and sneered, you call this gate as Gate of Heaven influence? Truly ridiculous. This gate was known as God-slaying mysterious gate during Founding Emperor era, for even the gods from the 9 heavens above and the devil gods from the 9 underworlds below couldn't escape it. Once the door opened and closed, gods and devils would have their souls returned to Yudu, giving it the name God-slaying. You don't even know that, so it's obvious that yours isn't the orthodox one. Come slay me, let me see what abilities you have. Qin Mu spun around, and devil chi from Yudu leaked out from Gate of Heaven influence. It was extremely dense, as it spread through the hall. The gate opened up and swept toward the divine dragon. Hold it. Cold sweat rolled down the forehead of the divine dragon, as he stared at the gate that was about to consume him. Qin Mu stopped, being very patient. What does Senior want to say? What's your cultivation? The divine dragon asked in a hoarse voice while staring at Gate of Heaven influence. Junior has cultivated to 6 directions realm, but I've also awakened my 7 stars divine treasure. The divine dragon was stunned. 6 direction realm with 7 stars divine treasure awakened. What is this logic? Yet even if we take that you're on 7-star realm, you actually want to kill me like that? Ha 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 ha, you are truly an ignorant hen dragon that's not afraid of a real dragon. He relaxed and said proudly, let me see how you slay me. Qin Mu continued to execute Gate of Heaven influence, and more of Yudu's devil chi spread out. Suddenly though, the divine dragon shouted out, hold it. Qin Mu's patience waned, and he couldn't help hurrying. Senior, if you have anything to say it all at once. The divine dragon sneered at him. Little brat, for trying to slay me, I will eradicate your whole family, are you clear? This seed you've planted today, it will result in your family being wiped out in the future. Qin Mu nodded and continued to execute Gate of Heaven influence. I'm clear on that. If you don't die, come and wipe out my family anytime. Gate of Heaven influence shifted, and cryptic voice came from Qin Mu's mouth. He chanted the hard to understand Yudu's devil language. The divine dragon hurriedly said, hold it. This gate of yours is different from what I've seen before, what's the language you are speaking? Whoosh! Gate of Heaven influence became even more towering when it swept past his body. Inside the gate was pitch black darkness. Within it, a pair of incomparably huge, curved horns could be faintly seen emanating with flames. The gate came to an abrupt stop then, and the body of the divine dragon turned stiff. Suddenly, a head crashed to the ground, and the body relaxed. The dragon turned limp like a dead snake, motionless. Qin Mu scattered Gate of Heaven influence, and an intense pain came from the heart of his brows. A drop of black blood flowed down. Qin Mu hurriedly covered the heart of his brows, but the stinging pain became more and more intense. The pain was so unbearable that he knelt on the ground and hugged his head. From a few steps away, Jiang Miao had seen that when Gate of Heaven influence took in the divine dragon, a huge mouth suddenly appeared in the darkness, swallowing the primordial spirit of the divine dragon in one bite. Jiang Miao was in a daze. The malicious mouth had been incomparably evil, and even he was frightened. When he came back to his senses and checked on the divine dragon, he couldn't help feeling astonished. The body had no more breath left. Its primordial spirit had indeed been swallowed by the huge mouth, instead of entering Yudu. Cult Master Qin, there seems to be a ghost in this gate of yours. Cult Master Qin. Jiang Miao heard Qin Mu's whimpers, and he hurriedly came over to help him up. Qin Mu was trembling from the intense pain, and from his chest, his jade pendant suddenly shot off beams of faint light, forcing back the stinging pain. I'm fine. I just suddenly felt my head aching. Qin Mu looked around in a daze and pushed away Jiang Miao's hand. He shook his head and said, it's much better now. It should just have been a side effect of executing Gate of Heaven influence. Strange, this kind of weird incident had never happened before when I did this in the past. Jiang Miao looked blankly at the heart of his brows, and Qin Mu glanced at him. He asked with a smile, what do you see? There's a bloody mark at the heart of your brows, and there seems to be something inside, he said with astonishment. Qin Mu hurriedly took out a mirror and checked his reflection. He indeed saw a bloody marking at the heart of his brows. It was long and narrow, about an inch or more in length. The two ends were pointy while the center was slightly wider. What was even weirder was that the bloody mark bulged out slightly. It looked as though he had knocked his head and it was swollen. He stretched his hand and touched the bloody mark. There seemed to be some round thing inside, yet he didn't feel any pain when he exerted some force on it. Could I have knocked my head after that intense pain? That thing is moving. Qin Mu was shocked. His finger had clearly felt the thing under the bloody mark moving. Could I have been possessed by the divine dragon? He hurriedly executed his primordial spirit and looked into his body. He didn't discover any abnormalities after searching for half a day, and even when his primordial spirit came to the heart of his brows, he also couldn't find the thing left behind by the bloody mark. Jiang Miao examined the heart of his brows carefully, and suddenly raised a finger. Cult Master, look at my finger. Qin Mu did as told, and Jiang Miao moved his finger while looking at the heart of his brows. Instantly, Qin Mu realized that the thing in the bloody mark was moving along with the finger. Jiang Miao tested and let out a sigh of relief. It should be an eye below the bloody mark. An eye? Qin Mu was puzzled. Great educational heavenly devil scriptures did have some strange techniques for him grow a third eye, but he hadn't transformed into Saturn's sovereign or Mars' sovereign, so where did the third eye come from? Cult Master Qin, I saw a ghost in that gate of yours just now. Jiang Miao said after composing himself. He remembered the sight he had just seen and shuddered without feeling cold. When my uncle was swallowed by your gate of heaven influence, his primordial spirit was pulled out and fell toward the god with horns. At that moment, a huge mouth suddenly appeared and ate my uncle's primordial spirit. A huge mouth appeared to eat your uncle. Stunned, Qin Mu rubbed his forehead. There are numerous monsters with ferocious nature in Yudu, condensed from Yudu's broken souls and devil nature. They are malicious and terrifying. Could this have been the act of one of them? Jiang Miao shook his head. I don't know about this. I only saw that huge mouth swallowing my uncle. It gave a cruel smile before vanishing, and your gate closed shut. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment, then sighed. Earth Count's control over Yudu is getting weaker and weaker. As a result, all these monsters are running out. We came here in search of a true dragon to explain the writings on the true dragon's nest, but now we are out of leads again. Suddenly, he saw that the chains had fallen off the divine dragon, and the devil writings on them no longer flowed. This made his heart skip a beat. Crap! 10 miles star sand calamity formation will also stop. Qin Mu sprinted out, and saw the yellow sand flowing like a dragon in the sky above the canyon. It rushed back into the huge cauldron. Meanwhile, on both sides of the canyon, the runes on the walls were burning up and turning into ashes. In the sky full of yellow sand, Shingen was covered in blood as he dragged himself over with heavy footsteps. His expression was very dark. Qin Mu hurriedly ran over and hugged the huge cauldron with a grunt. He couldn't pick it up, however. The star sand was simply too heavy for him to carry. He roused his vital qi and tried to execute the star sand in the cauldron, and a few grains of star sand flew into the sky, slowly floating forward. Qin Mu's face instantly turned blacker than that of Shingen. This star sand that big senior brother made is too heavy. I can't execute it at all with my abilities. Qin Mu abandoned the huge cauldron and turned to rush into the huge palace hall. Jiang Miao watched him rush back in a hurry and jump onto the divine dragon's body, not knowing what he was about to do. Qin Mu executed dragon rearing scriptures, but how could it work when the dragon was already dead? His primordial spirit had even been swallowed by a malicious spirit, so there was no way to borrow the cultivation of the divine dragon. He might have been able to face Shingen, but alas. Qin Mu looked at Jiang Miao, then shook his head. His cultivation is too weak, even inferior to mine, so I won't get much power even if I use dragon-rearing scriptures. Teleportation divine art. Runes flew around his body, and he was prepared to escape with Jiang Miao. However, with his cultivation, he was only able to bring Jiang Miao dozens of miles away at most. This kind of distance was only a matter of seconds to Xing'an. Before his teleportation runes could even be executed though, they suddenly stopped moving and froze in the air. Not only were the runes frozen, but even Qin Mu and Jiang Miao were restricted. They couldn't move. Xing'an walked into the hall with a gloomy face and stretched out a hand. When he spread apart his fingers, they were still dripping with blood. After he patched his divine bridge and reached the celestial palaces to become a god, his cultivation had an astonishing raise. His abilities were simply too powerful and could easily restrict Qin Mu. He had suffered heavy injuries in the 10 miles of yellow sand, but he was a god and had immeasurable power. Even with the remnants of his magic power, he could still trap Qin Mu. Cold sweat rolled down Qin Mu's forehead, as he forcefully squeezed out a smile. Senior brother Xing'an, I will just return the chest to you. What I want isn't the chest, but you, Xing'an said before spitting out bloody phlegm. The wounds on his body were of various sizes, but all looked extremely horrifying. Flesh could be seen in many places, and in a few even white bone. If one was to think of it, he was truly unlucky. First, he had been trapped in Parameter Arc, which was incomparably dangerous, for half a year. All kinds of seals and killing formation were everywhere, and he still needed to face some mute's harassment from time to time. The moment he came out, he met Qin Mu and were lured into 10-mile star sand calamity formation. The youth had left easily, yet he sank into the formation, and his situation got worse and worse. Only by unleashing all that he knew was he able to endure for so long. If it wasn't because the formation had suddenly stopped, he definitely couldn't have lasted much longer, and would have been turned into dust. Great divine physician, why is it so difficult to catch you? Xing'an asked after swallowing the blood that rushed up his throat. Luckily, you still haven't escaped from my grasp. Incomparably intense darkness poured out from under his feet. It was his life and death divine treasure. He walked over as though he was walking on black water. At that moment, 2 eyes appeared in the darkness under his feet. Next, a beautiful woman revealed her face, and her alluring figure floated into view. Xing'an looked like he was stepping on the black water, and the woman was like his reflection. However, one was a man and the other a beautiful woman. This was an extremely peculiar sight. The two people walked toward Qin Mu in unison, raising and putting down their feet at the same time. Right before the darkness touched Qin Mu, Xing'an suddenly stopped and no longer walked forward. The beauty also stopped. It was as if she could only move if Xing'an moved. A male voice came from the mouth of the beauty. It was very rough and heavy. Xing'an, why aren't you walking forward anymore? Take him into your life and death divine treasure, and hand him to me. Once I have him, our agreement will be finished. Lu Li, I've already found him for you, which is what I had promised. Whether or not you can capture him is your own business. I'm not fond of being threatened, Xing'an said indifferently. Under his feet, the beauty was stunned for a moment. She then sneered, you think that just because you went to the celestial palaces and became a fake god, you can bargain with me? Xing'an, how dare you? Bargain? Xing'an shook his head. This isn't bargaining. You sent me out of Yudu, so I helped you find him. This is the trade. I've already done my part. As for whether you can capture him, that's your problem. He stretched his hand in a grabbing motion, and the body of the divine dragon rose while Qin Mu and Jiang Miao suddenly fell to the ground. They regained control of their bodies and could execute vital qi as they liked. Qin Mu was bewildered. He raised his head to see the body of the divine dragon shrinking. Its chains fell off due to the change in size. Xing'an grabbed the divine dragon, then straightened it out and coiled around his waist like a belt. He suddenly said coldly, "Lu Li, get out of my life and death divine treasure." Under his feet, the beauty flew into a furious bout. "How dare you talk to me like this? Do you think a small god like you can escape from my grasp? My divine treasure, who are you to talk?" "Scram!" Xing'an shouted out, and his primordial spirit suddenly appeared in his life and death divine treasure. Sun, moon, and 5 elements lined up, and whenever their light came close, the beauty hurriedly avoided. She was forced to retreat by the light of the 7 stars. "Xing'an, you dare scam a high god? I will definitely." Scram! God's aura burst forth from Xing'an, and his clothes and hair fluttered. The divine treasures in his body shone brightly, and lit up his life and death divine treasure, forcing her back into Yudu. Xing'an's aura returned to normal, and his fluttering black hair also fell back down to drape his shoulders. With clothes back to normal, he looked at Qin Mu. "Where's my chest?" Qin Mu hesitated for a moment, then took out the chest from his Dao Tai sack. The chest sprinted toward Xing'an, but turned its head back when it was halfway across to look at Qin Mu. It then sprinted toward Xing'an and came to his side. Xing'an turned around and walked out of the hall while saying indifferently, "Divine Physician Qin, don't let me meet you again." "Why aren't you killing me?" Qin Mu suddenly asked. "Why should I kill you?" Xing'an stopped and turned his head. "I have my own principles when doing things. The secrets of Magpie Bridge, secrets of Mysterious Guide, and secrets of Divine Crossing have helped me cultivate to godhood and escape from worrying about my lifespan. So the grudge between us is written off. Me finding you was just to settle the agreement between me and Lu Li. Now it is also written off. You are a great master, but do you think I can't know and act as one? You underestimate me too much." Qin Mu was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "I have indeed underestimated you in the past." Xing'an saw that smile of his, and the corner of his eyes twitched. He gave a cold snort while turning to walk out of the hall. "Don't smile at me. I will come back to find you. You have founded numerous things, like 18th sword form, primordial spirit guide, and I'm someone who appreciates talented people, but when your corporeal body reaches a level where it comes into my view, I will find you. I want the corporeal body of an overlord body." Qin Mu was dumbfounded as he watched Xing'an leave into the distance. When Xing'an reached the huge cauldron, his gaze wavered. He was about to take the treasure when the star sand moved in the cauldron. It gradually rose and formed the shape of a young man. Astonished, Xing'an rushed away, crossing the 10-mile-long canyon in a flash. He was afraid that the formation might erupt once again. Qin Mu brought Jiang Miao out of the hall, and saw a sand human standing in the center of the huge cauldron. The star sand flowed continuously on the surface. "Big senior brother?" Qin Mu probed. "Heavenly Saint Cult's founding master. I'm the current cult master, and I met Saint Woodcutter not long ago." "Big brother, are you still alive?" The sand human opened his mouth, but it couldn't speak. Suddenly, it crumbled, and the star sand flowed on the ground to make a picture. Qin Mu hurriedly looked over, and saw geographical maps all over the ground. Mountains and rivers, all of them were captured on the ground. The terrain in the geographical map changed non-stop, and Qin Mu hurriedly memorized them by heart. The star sand transformed over a dozen times, before flowing back into the huge cauldron. Qin Mu frowned slightly then. Besides the first map, he had no idea about the other ones, and when he thought about Great Ruins, there was no place in it that fitted the other pictures. The first map of Great Ruins, but the other 13 didn't represent any terrain present in Eternal Peace, or West Earth. It was also different from the terrain of Supreme Emperor Heaven. What is Big Senior Brother trying to say? Qin Mu narrowed his eyes. Heavenly Saint Cult's founding master had to have detected that the divine dragon died, and since it was his merit, he had activated his star sand to become his body to look at the situation. However, he was probably not in great ruins or eternal peace, but in another world, which was why his voice couldn't transmit over. Because of that, he used star sand to arrange the geographical map to guide Qin Mu to his side. The 14 geographical maps were incomparably complicated, so why should I go to find him? Qin Mu suddenly came to a realization. My horizons are narrow, but Saint Woodcutter must have seen the world and would definitely recognize all these maps. However, I might be able to find some clues from the first geographical map, so why don't I go over to take a look first? When he decided on that, he relaxed and said, Jiang Miao, let's go. Jiang Miao acknowledged. Qin Mu suddenly turned back at that moment and hugged the huge cauldron. He tried to raise it forcefully while Jiang Miao scratched his head. Aren't you going to help? Qin Mu asked him in a shout. Jiang Miao went over in a hurry, and both their faces flushed as they used all their strength, yet still couldn't lift the huge cauldron. Jiang Miao gasped for breath and tried to ask, Cult Master, I think we should forget about it. Your Big Senior Brother's abilities are too great, and even Xing'an didn't dare to take this huge cauldron away. We definitely can't carry it. Qin Mu could only give up. At that moment though, he saw the chains that had shackled the dragon, and his eyes lit up. He sprinted over in a hurry. It won't be too bad if we can at least take a few chains. They could hold a divine dragon, so the materials used to make have to be of the highest quality. Even if they were melted and turned into treasures, they would be of the highest grade among the highest grade. Jiang Miao could only follow over. The two of them dragged a thick chain forcefully, barely managing to get it out of the hall. Qin Mu opened his Daotai sack and tried to put one end of the chain inside, but the chain was too thick and he couldn't put it in at all. On top of that, the other end of the chain was deeply embedded into the cliff and he couldn't pull it out. The two youths stared at each other, out of ideas. Qin Mu was furious and turned to leave. To think you're my Big Senior Brother, what a miser. Jiang Miao hurriedly followed after him, and Qin Mu flew into the sky with a gloomy face. He looked in the surroundings and checked the terrain, then chose the direction marked in the first geographical map. 2 days later, they came to a small village which was the marked location. Qin Mu and Jiang Miao walked inside and examined their surroundings. The small village was similar to all the ordinary village in great ruins. However, there were sculptures of gods with dragon heads and human bodies all around it. Why did Big Senior Brother want us to come here? While feeling puzzled, Qin Mu saw a white-haired elder who was weaving a fishing net in front of a small straw hut. He hurriedly walked forward and bowed in a respectful greeting. Elder, what is this place? The white-haired elder looked at him with blurry eyes full of astonishment. I gave the Emperor's disc to Ling family, so why is it with you? He asked with a smile. Qin Mu stared with his eyes wide open, speechless. The white-haired elder wore green clothing that had been washed pale. He placed the fishing net in his hands, and Qin Mu felt something moving on his chest. Next, he saw the Emperor's disc change into a small dragon that popped its head out from under his collar. When Jiang Miao saw the small dragon, he couldn't help changing back into his true form. He became a small dragon also and hid behind Qin Mu with a low growl that was both respectful and fearful. Maha! The little dragon, with its head out, was a true dragon lord. It opened its mouth to yawn before slowly crawling out from Qin Mu's collar and slithering to the hand of the white-haired elder. It coiled up in his hand and closed its eyes sleepily. Immediately, numerous young men and women walked out from the small village, surrounding Qin Mu and Jiang Miao. One of the robust young men asked, "Old ancestor, are they here to create trouble?" The white-haired elder smiled. "No, they aren't. Don't scare them, these two have some fate with our village." The young men and women lost their enmity, and examined Qin Mu and the little dragon Jiang Miao that was behind him. Qin Mu was astonished. The young men and women all had vigorous vital qi, and every one of them was hiding their light under a bushel. However, when they had surrounded them, Qin Mu had heard 7 explosions from opening the divine treasures coming from the youngest girl's body, making it clear that she was an expert on divine bridge realm. Yet she should have been the weakest in the village as everyone was protecting her. Even the weakest villager in this place that was by no means large was on divine bridge realm. Qin Mu had thought that disabled elderly village was the strongest village in Great Ruins, but from the looks of it, Great Ruins was really a place of concealed talents. Besides the Emperor's Disc, you also have the true dragon's nest. The white-haired elder looked astonished when his gaze landed on the youth's waist. Qin Mu took off the Dao Tai sack and brought out the true dragon's nest, placing it respectfully in front of the white-haired elder. "May Senior take a look at it." The spirit of the true dragon lord immediately rose and swam into the true dragon's nest. When the other villagers saw it, their spirits rose, and they wanted to tunnel into the dragon's nest with that little dragon. However, they resisted the urge. Could the villagers here be dragons and not humans? Is this a village of dragons? Qin Mu made his own guesses after noticing everyone's reaction. The Emperor's Disc of Ling family was stolen by my grandpa Cripple, who gave it to me. As for the true dragon's nest, it was refined by dragon rearing sovereign of high heavens. Since I subdued him, the true dragon's nest also fell into my hands. Senior, you are the god that refined the Emperor's Disc, right? The white-haired elder's gaze landed on the true dragon's nest, and he spoke with a smile that was not a smile. Back when I refined the true dragon lord into the Emperor's Disc, and entered Middle-earth to find a successor, I met a young fellow with extraordinary aptitude and comprehension. He was the old ancestor of Ling family. I saw that he had the chi of the true dragon, so I gave the Emperor's Disc to him and imparted the dragon language and technique on the Emperor's Disc. But what could I do that his mind wasn't on this, and he went to chase after some girl instead. In the end, he managed to catch that girl, but by then he had forgotten most of the dragon language and technique I had taught him. It was then that I knew that this young fellow wasn't the true dragon lord. Qin Mu had once heard Ling Yuxiu talk about this before and had found it funny. But never had he expected it to be true. However, I'm lazy by nature, and I had been asked by another to refine the true dragon lord and find a successor. Since the successor wasn't useless, I let him be, the white-haired elder said with a smile. Who would have thought that even though the young fellow wasn't hard-working, his descendants were all very hard-working and managed to strengthen Eternal Peace Empire to its current state. Since Emperor's Disc fell into your hands and you also have the true dragon's nest, you must be after the technique on it, right? Senior, I'm indeed rather interested in the technique on the true dragon's nest. However, I've come here because of Heavenly Saint Cult's founding master. He is my big senior brother, and he left a geographical map which marked this village. So I've found my way here, Qin Mu explained respectfully. The white-haired elder was stunned and pondered over it. Heavenly Saint Cult's founding master. Is that the young fellow whose name is Wei Fengshui? Qin Mu hesitated. He didn't know what was the name of his big senior brother. The white-haired elder saw his expression and smiled. He once came to find me and asked me how to gain merit. He wasn't a bad youth, and his abilities were extremely extraordinary. Teacher had found a good disciple. However, if Wei Fengshui wanted to become a saint, it was very hard for him to gain merit, as the path he walked was teacher's path, and it is very difficult. I couldn't teach him anything. If you are his junior brother, and have also come to ask me on how to become a saint. I can't teach you anything as well. The teacher he had been mentioning probably referred to Saint Woodcutter, who once was the heavenly teacher of founding Emperor Celestial Heaven. He'd been in charge of teaching all the princes and princesses of founding Emperor's bloodline. May I ask if my big senior brother mentioned where he was planning to go? Qin Mu asked. The white-haired elder shook his head. He didn't say where he planned to go, but he left something behind. If he made you look for me, it should be for that item. He stood up and walked into the straw hut. After a moment, he brought out a red box and handed it over. Qin Mu opened it and saw a palm-sized token engraved with a picture of a ferocious beast. Qin Mu flipped it around, but he still didn't understand what it was. He sincerely sought enlightenment and asked, "May I ask, Senior, what is the use of this token?" This is a commander's seal used to mobilize soldiers. There's a formation with positions for gods in it, but it's extremely ancient, so it's most likely useless now, the white-haired elder said. Even I don't recognize some of the runes on this, so it might be a commander's seal from High Emperor era, or even earlier. He took back the commander's seal and activated it with his magic power. They saw stars rise from the commander's seal and swirl around them. These stars are the positions for gods. If they are all taken, they could use this formation to face the enemy and fight against it. Qin Mu raised his head and noticed that the stars that had flown out of the commander's seal weren't truly stars. They were apparitions, but there was an extremely high number of them. There were probably several thousand stars, and his heart couldn't help shuddering. He muttered, "A formation of several thousand gods. What kind of battle requires several thousand gods and devils? Your horizons are too narrow." The white-haired elder retrieved his magic power, and the star apparitions vanished. He said with a smile, "During founding Emperor era, there were more than a few such battles. The formation in this commander's seal isn't of much use anymore, but it's still a pretty nice collectible." Qin Mu looked at him in bewilderment. "How is the formation useless?" The white-haired elder handed the commander's seal to him and said, "The great Tao of heaven and earth have changed, so the formation in the commander's seal is no longer compatible with it. The formation also has no more power left. This item is very ancient, and it's no longer compatible with the Tao. It's probably something from tens of thousands of years ago, but as for which era it comes, that's not something that I know." Qin Mu placed the commander's seal back into the red box, and put it away in his Dao Tai sack. Since founding Master Wei Fengshui had left the red box and the commander's seal with the white-haired elder, it meant that this item was definitely very important. His reason to lead Qin Mu to the village was definitely for it. "Forgive this junior's impudence, but may I ask for senior's name?" Qin Mu said. The white-haired elder smiled at him. "I thought a descendant of Qin family would know my name, but you actually don't. I'm a dragon vein that attained Tao and cultivated itself into a true dragon. Back then, I followed after your ancestor. Because I was just born and didn't know how to talk, I could only cry out Maha, so your ancestor named me like that. My surname is Ma and my name is Hacking. He used it to make fun of me." Qin Mu looked at him with a weird expression. "Ma Hacking?" Jiang Miao popped his head out from Qin Mu's back and said timidly, "Maha." This video will end here.